Hello guys, welcome back to Lunatic Astrology. Did you know something about the month that's coming up of May? I'm going to call it the Fortune Favors the Bold month. It's crazy ass full of Aries energy as 3 planets move into the sign of Aries in 1 month, all moving in direct motion. Now, that will be kind of like momentum, directionality, fresh starts, initiative, new beginnings, daring do. It's going to be fun if you're a fire sign. Like all of us Sages and Aries and Leos are going to love the ride. And for the rest of you, just buckle up for what will be a time of great initiative and change, and sometimes conflict, but mostly good forward momentum as we go into bold, fresh, daring new starts in each of our lives, depending on our sign. We're going to be doing the all signs. So this is a Jupiter and a Venus, both of them getting out of the Pisces zone and moving into Aries. And as well, in that fray of yay, Aries, let's run for it, we also get some really sweet juice in the sky as well from Mars. Mars is also moving late in the month into the sign of Aries. Excuse me, I just dropped a bunch of papers with transits on the floor, but I'm just going to live without those papers anyway. So I feel that this can be very good for everybody, honestly, and it could bring an end to the war as well that we've been experiencing in the Ukraine early in the month. And I'll get into details in a minute. Before I get going on all the why and wherefores of this incredibly Aries rich month, it includes an eclipse. It includes an eclipse in the middle of the month. Okay. I want to talk about the basics. If you're listening to this and you're new to my channel, I'm a whole sign house Hellenistic astrologer. Don't get confused by going, well, what do you mean? My Pisces is my 2nd and 3rd house. No, cast your chart in whole sign houses. How do you do that? Look in the link below. There's a free tutorial, only 5 minutes video of me showing you how to do it on free software online. Number 2, look for your rising sign first. It will always be the most accurate. Then you can check your sun and moon. If you're born in the day, maybe your sun's more accurate. If you're born at night, then moon's your second light. It may be also quite accurate, but certainly always know your rising sign and listen to that first. And lastly, I have a couple things going on. It is a little bit of a giveaway for my birthday month of April. And if you want to 60 minutes each for normally $47 for free, all you have to do is sign up for my newsletter and check the link below, and you get that automatically in your inbox, access to that content. And as well, if you want to have an eclipse reading with me, it covers really about almost a year and a half, 2 years of stories that are going to unfold from this current eclipse cycle in Taurus and Scorpio, and how that will impact you, but also how you can make proactive choices to ride the wave of that cycle. All right, enough business. Let's talk about this month for the collective. And then I will start with Aries and go to Pisces, and I will highlight for each sign maybe about 5 or 6 minutes of content, because during the month, I'll be going into much more detail for each of these events, like the eclipses, like the planetary ingresses into Aries for all signs. So we're kind of giving you an overview vibe, depending on your sign, of how this sort of fresh start, fire, and momentum will feel for you. Okay. So for the world, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I don't want to belabor it, but I will give you some of the gists of it for me. Anytime we end up in a situation in the sky where we end up with Jupiter moving into Aries, we end up in a kind of a archetypal truth warrior vibe, right? Jupiter is the god of wisdom and truth and kind of guru Jupiter energies, like the dispeller of darkness, king of Mount Olympus. Yes, I mean, it has many layers to it. But in its essence, it's a benefic, the greater benefic, and it's moving into Aries, a sign associated with warriors, battles, heroes, those sorts of archetypes. And so now we have truth warrior, battles, heroic battles for justice or truth. And so some things we're going to definitely unfold over this intense month ahead, where things that may have been a little hidden from view become quite obvious to us, especially because Mercury in the month of May will retrograde. And as he goes into retrograde motion, we will be beginning to see, he starts to retrograde around May the 10th, just as Jupiter ingresses into Aries on May the 10th. We will begin to see some kind of news stories that are old news stories being regurgitated and coming back to us again. As well, during the month, Mars will bump into Neptune, and that's a nice big deal, right? Mars and Neptune come together in the sky every 2 years, but in Pisces, not that often, because, Neptune has to be in Pisces for Mars to join him there. And in that sense, and there will be an in-depth video about it, Neptune in Pisces last happened in like the 1850s. So 1848 to 1860. So we're in a time in which every time Mars co-joins every 2 years with this particular Neptune, which has been available since around 2011 and will finish by 2025 or 6, there's a special flavor of, oh, we haven't seen this for a long, long time. So my feeling is that the energy of Mars and Neptune co-joining in the sky, and let me get the exact date for you on my pieces of paper, could be a very interesting time of news stories that are had been nebulous and maybe foggy, Neptune, but now Martianized, like fight for truth, warrior battle, zealot, ardent action to get some truth out, including legal systems and courts, right, is going to pick up. And the retrograde Mercury here, because Mercury was, basically Mercury is the messenger of the gods, and Jupiter is the god that he was the messenger for, especially on the top of Mount Olympus. What kind of truth? They could have been an old news story that we've heard before that was considered to be foggy, untrue, unscrupulous, Neptunian, delusional, conspiratorial, is going to be coming back into the news story cycle and turn out to be true. Now, take your conspiracy whichever which way you like. I don't care. Neptune is the god of viruses and pathogens, and so it could be about the pandemic. It could be something like finally the Wuhan lab leak story is verified. Who knows? But whatever it is, it's going to be very intense. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of intensity around this kind of storyline. I'm not expecting it to be, oh, no big deal. I'm just taking a look at the exact time of something in my sky chart. And I want to see, as I hold up my papers, because there's a whole month worth of documentation, it gets a little hard and unwieldy. So the Mars-Neptune conjunction is roughly the 17th, 18th, and 19th of May, kind of like spread out over that time frame. So look for some kind of breaking through in a news cycle. And then later in the month, around the 28th to the 31st, you're going to have Mars conjunct Jupiter. And that kind of is the same story. As Mars moves into connection with the Lord of Truth, the Lord of Wisdom, the Lord of Knowledge, in that end of the month. This is now an Aries story. Mars will venture into the sign of Aries on May 24th. So Jupiter gets there first, all right? And then Mars is catching up and he gets there. What is he doing with Neptune, right? In the middle of May, around the 17th to the 19th, that when he reaches the Lord of Justice and Truth in Aries, battle, war, advocacy, champion, hero, comes to light. Okay, so we'll see. It could actually literally be legal documents, legal court case stuff, things coming to fruition in legal cases that were on the docket but come out, and now it's big revelatory news stories, but they're older news stories coming back to us because of Mercury's retrogradation. Also, lastly, the war in Ukraine. I'm feeling that the movement of all these planets into Aries, even though it may be counterintuitive, Venus is the goddess of peace, and she's going into the sign of war. She will be entering there May the 2nd. Now, I actually heard, whether this is true or not, somewhere in the social media world, that Vladimir Putin wanted to end the war on May the 2nd. I heard that. Okay. Is that because he told his generals that when he started the war, it had to be done by May 2nd? Does he know astrology? You bet your bottom dollar he does. Does he have astrological advisors and occult priests and shamans? Yes, he does. That's Russia. Russia was way ahead of the curve, guys. They were doing a remote viewing and paranormal psychology and parapsychology long before the West was. So he's like going, okay, the goddess of peace in the sign of war, Jupiter will be in there, Mars will be in there. This is like a sign, if you know his chart, potentially he's a Scorpio rising. So, he would have been putting all the pieces together and going, this could be a really good time for this war to come to an end. So we'll see what happens. Now, I've got wind in my house, so give me a minute and we're going to keep going. But I think in the first week or so of the month of May, they'll see a treaty and a reconciliation cobbled together in the Ukraine. I'm not saying anybody's a winner. That is not what I'm saying. There are a lot of people that were harmed and hurt, and but yet it would be the end of the actual bombing. want to say one more thing about this. I was accused of being a Russian propagandist by a fellow astrologer. And also, if you look back at my playlist, I've done videos on Putin and the war, Pluto and the US Pluto return. I'm looking at the astrology. I'm also looking at history. Okay. I'm looking because like, if you listen to my channel long enough, you'll see that I'll tell you what happened the last time something happened. So I like to look at the history of events. I like to look at the planetary correspondences because I might know the history of the Ukraine and Russian situation going back decades or hundreds of years even, doesn't mean I'm an apologist for a war. So please, any of you people who for some reason think explanation of a situation equals condoning of a situation, just get clear. Okay. I've got 4 planets in Aries, and I get really contentious when idiocy and stupidity, propaganda and polarization takes over common sense. Thank you. Rant is done. All right. So we're going to do the all signs. And I really want to say for you guys, I'm just going to select 1 or 2 items of the month for each sign. It'll be different for each of you. That's how I'm going to approach it this month. That I think, based on your sign is the kind of key thing to pay attention to. But if you follow my channel, please like and subscribe and comment. It helps the algorithm a lot. You'll see that during the month, I always parse these transits. There's going to be a video for almost every major thing. I put up 8 to 12 videos a month, and you'll get the details for each sign each time. But here's like my favorite highlights for each sign in the month of May 2022, year of our ending pandemic. Don't even get me started on that one. I called the end of the pandemic in 3 or 4 videos. The December 4th eclipse video, the Panacea asteroid on the Cazimi Mercury in November of 21, etc. So astrology can be very usefully predictive. All right, let's get going and talk about all signs. We're going to start, of course, with Aries, number 1. So let me just get my back end charts up so that I'm looking at it and just reading the sky for you and telling you what I want to talk about. That way I'm going to be more fluent and fluid than if I'm using my visualizing imagination. Okay, Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. We're going to talk about 2 cool things for you fiery Aries folk. 1, we're going to talk about the fact that Jupiter's coming into your sign. Hallelujah, which is a really positive development because you only get Jupiter every 12 years moving through your sign. He'll be there this year for a while. And in fact, he'll be there from May 11th or 10th this month through to October 28th, and then he'll be back in your sign again, December 20th until May of 23. This is a very bounteous time for you guys. Hang on. Especially the rising sign. Now you can expand and grow and prosper and feel magnanimous and generous, larger than life. You might gain a bit of weight if it's your rising sign, but it doesn't matter. It's better to be girthy and jolly than it is to be sad and skinny. So there's a feeling of, yay, everything's getting bigger, maybe even your body. Can't count the number of pregnant women who are Aries. When Jupiter goes through their first house, they're pregnant. They're girthy because their belly is expanding. But the idea here is that you're going into a time that starts in the May 11th, 10th, 11th timeframe, depending where you live in the world, where you're going to feel a beginning of a sense of hope and optimism and positivity in your life. It's going to be like somebody said, yay, you. And, Jupiter has been going through your 12th house for the year before that. Not easy at all. Really not an easy transit. Jupiter in the 12th house can be like a Zen master with a stick, making you get down with your spiritual awareness program, making you quit your addictions, making you get super realistic about your entire purpose in life and the meaning of your life. So a lot of times when Jupiter is in our 12th house, as best as he can do is making us better in our inner life, go within or go without. But it's also not always felt to be a wonderfully happy transit, because we have to participate with that expansion of our soul, the cleaning and expansion of our karmic closet, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of coming to a hallelujah end, and you get a breath of relief, breath of fresh air, as now you have the experience of Jupiter in the house of you. So that's a positive turning around energy. And so I think for a lot of you, this is going to feel like a new beginning of hope. And you're going to feel for once like you have the command of your life. Jupiter is the commander of Mount Olympus in the house of you. You'll feel like Make It So, Captain Picard on Star Trek. You'll be able to kind of get what you want, but you're doing it from a place of executive command. You're in your throne. You're in your kingly seat. In your own essence, you're feeling more Olympian Mount Olympus king or queen. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is that, especially if your ascendant, sun or moon, is in the first, let's say, 1 degree to 13 degrees or so, or 1 degree to 8, let's go to 11 degrees of Aries. You get more intensity around this new start with this energy of Jupiter in the house of you, just because Jupiter makes it to 8 degrees and around July 28th begins to retrograde again. So it's really impacting, especially the first 10 degrees of Aries, sun, moon, and rising people. And so the other later degrees will experience more of this in the first 5 months of 23, but you're all getting some flavor of it, even if it's not exact to your sun, moon, or ascendant. Now, second of all, you're ruled by Mars. He's, the Lord of your rising sign, the helmsman of your chart. He's a very important planet, a very important time lord, but a life lord, really. And Mars is going to be the ruler of the South Node eclipse on May the 16th, and that is going to be at 25 degrees of Scorpio. Now, for you, this is your 8th house of finance that doesn't belong to you, money that comes from partners, business partners, inheritances, bank loans, leveraging residual income, royalty income, things like that. This really bank loans. Did I say that? You're not your money, but you can participate in it. It's not the wages you're earning. It's stock market investments. Now, this is a full moon eclipse. All right. Full moon. And so it's a completion of a cycle. It's something that's coming to a fullness here, but it may also be a sense of something that's coming to a critical fullness to create newness, right? For every full ending is a beginning. So there's a dramatic energy here. It's a total lunar eclipse. And because it's total, it's powerful and has an intensity about it. And I want you to think about this as, and I'll do the whole eclipse video with a lot more detail, some kind of culminating fullness here. So, I mean, I also think lunar eclipses are often quite good. I find them more revealing than they are like changing my life, where I can see something under the light of an eclipse in a new way. So you may see an opportunity for an investment, an opportunity for a financial leverage of some kind, maybe 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after the eclipse on May 16th, but certainly it can unfold itself, unravel itself up to 6 months after, into the fall of this year. So, but you might get the taste of what it's really about sooner. Mars is ruling the house of your body. Mars is ruling the house of your finances, but Mars also in your sky is the exaltation lord of your career, your 10th house. And with this lunar eclipse sextile in your 10th house, and for some of you, your midheaven, there could be a fullness and a revealing of something deeply hidden from view. 8th house can be secrets and things you can't see. They may connect to the family of origin, the lineage, your ancestral line in the 4th house. It could be a deep revealing of something that was not able to be seen by you, but then lifts your career up and improves your finances. So you look for clues of that development in the 2 weeks before Aries and the 2 weeks after this eclipse. There's a lot more going on in the sky for sure in the month of May, but I'm picking for each sign the 2 most juicy highlights. And for more details of what you want to know about the month of May and what's going on in your life, please tune in to my channel and hit the bell for notifications, and you won't miss any of the more in-depth videos that are coming up this month for each of your signs. Okay. So yay, us Aries folk, we're getting Aries stimulus. Oh, I should just finish up with, and of course, Venus is going into Aries and Mars is going into Aries at the end of the month. So we are getting a huge boost of our own vital energy and directionality and force of beingness activated. And I say that we, because I'm an Aries sun and moon and Mercury. And so I will feel this very strongly as well. All righty. So we're going to keep going because I just like to keep this relatively pithy, given that I have the same content in more depth in my sky videos during the month ahead. All right. So we're going to move on to the Tauruses. Now, first of all, for Taurus, I'm doing something special. I'm going to talk about the eclipse at the end of April because you're still feeling it in the first week of May. And it's, it depends on where you live. It was April 30th. It could be May 1st, some places in the world. There's a Taurus eclipse, guys, Taurus sun, moon, and rising. If your rising sign, sun or moon is anywhere in the first 12 degrees of Taurus, you're 13 degrees of Taurus, you're really feeling this 10-degree Taurus eclipse quite succinctly, quite intimately, quite dramatically in the house of your body, your identity, who you feel yourself to be, the first house energies are active. It can be quite the awakening, quite the aha, quite the exciting energy, because Uranus is only 4 degrees off this eclipse. So it's like bolts of sudden jolts of insight in the first week of May about who you are, who you want to be. And it's about freedom and independence and breaking the rules, but in a positive way, right? Positive because Venus is a ruler of your chart, and she's a ruler of this expansive North Node eclipse. And I want to encourage you to trust these jolts of sudden insight or change that you want to endeavor to take on in your Taurus life, because they will be very beneficial for you. An eclipse cycle ruled by the Lord of the chart, ruled by Venus, is good for you, and it will expand you, etc. Expand more of who you are into the world. So that eclipse is ongoing. You know, you'll feel it maybe in the first couple of weeks of May, trickling down, trickling out. A couple of weeks before mid-April to mid-May, it's very energized in your sky. Lots of energy going on. Now, I did an in-depth eclipse video. Go check that out, of course. I'll put the link in the description box as well. Maybe I'll put the link as well in the pinned comments, because of all people, you Tauruses want to go into a lot more depth about this particular eclipse, which I do in my Eclipse All Signs video. Now, the second thing I think that's the most important for you is obviously, what does Venus do this month? She's going to move in May 2nd, in fact, into Aries. Why does it matter? Well, she's your girl. She's the Lord of your chart. She's got your back. She doesn't like being in Aries. Okay, let me just qualify that. And she's in a very subtle house. She was swimming in Pisces, your 11th house, loving you up there from April 5th to May 2nd. This is like fairy godmothers and pennies from heaven and luscious fun enjoyment with your friends, Taurus, feeling expansive, feeling social, feeling lucky and happy, maybe having a sense of goodness of life, maybe even up-leveling your dreams and wishes, things like that. And even like my daughter is a Taurus sun and getting really great grades, A's in school, you know, so this energy of where Venus was traveling, your hopes, dreams, and wishes, you know, made some of those wishes come true. 11th house. And maybe some really good times with female friends. And now she's going into your 12th on May 2nd. And now, not only is she in exile or debility, she doesn't like necessarily hanging out in the Valhalla beer hall with the warriors. That's how I always picture her, like getting down, and all the sweaty warriors are there with their beers off through the battle. And she's like all pretty, and she's wearing finery and perfume. And she's just come out of Pisces, where she's exalted and feeling really, really good about herself, a bit like hyper steroid diva, glamour goddess. And now she goes into the beer hall with the warriors, and it's not her happy place. So I don't know how to say this, but it's not an easier place for your Lord to be. What can she do for you when she's in your 12th house for you, Taurus, sun, moon, and rising signs? I think what she may do back there, if I have my guesstimates, because don't forget, she's joined by Jupiter later in the month, right? And that can really activate a huge amount of support from another benefic planet. And she's also going to be joined, of course, by Mars as well. So she's got, you know, May 10th, Jupiter comes in, and then later on May 24th, in comes Mars. She's going to host a party in there, but the host will be Mars. So here's how I think it's going to work for you. Well, she's there without Mars at home. You know, she's waiting for him to arrive on May the 24th. She's very likely house cleaning. She's probably cleaning up the old ashtrays and the beer and the junk and the dirt in the beer hall. And finally, if she's doing that, she's cleaning up your addictions, your bad habits, and your self-undoing, which is the 12th house. And she's doing that in a way that she's trying to make it fun. She's singing as she cleans, she's ejecting your weed or your cigarettes, and she's smiling happily and offering you good, glad tidings. She's going to try to make it a more enjoyable process of cleaning things up there. You could have a friend who undoes you a bit, secret enemy friend, hidden enemy, girlfriend, especially like a woman who's a girl. You could also have, or a woman, yeah, like a female undoing you. You could also maybe have a female friend with a health problem, having to visit the hospital, not a mother or a daughter kind of thing. It's just a female friend, sister vibe, or a sister even. But this is certainly not the main story. It's really an interior process, interior soul process. It's your own hidden psyche, the parts of you don't look at very often, you know, and Venus is in there working her magic. When Mars gets in there, though, and joins her at the end of the month, the last week of May 24th, the end of the month, she'll have to take orders from him. And he's a tough taskmaster. So he likes to cut, sever, and end things like snip, snip, snip. Okay. Now that's intense energy. So she'll get things clean as she can, but once he gets in there, it's like, okay, game over, guys. So this is where if you're not heeding the enjoyable clean up your act process, then you may be finding yourself having dramatic developments where Mars says, that's it, like wake up calls around these addictions, habits, patterns, and self-undoing. And then lastly, I'll say with Jupiter entering in there on the 10th for you guys, joining Venus, a female teacher, a female coach, a female psychologist, a female guide could be showing up for you mid-May, May 10th onward. And this could be a very helpful person. It's certainly a good time to seek out support. The 12th house tends to operate really well with hypnosis, quantum healing hypnosis, dream work, even shamanic work, getting yourself all cleared up on those levels as well. All right. Thanks, Taurus, for listening. Hope some of that resonates for you. Just a sec. I just lost my screen. Okay. So next it's Gemini, Sun, Moon, and rising sign Geminis. Okay. So first of all, Gemini, one thing I will say to you is that Mercury is the Lord of your chart. In other words, if you're a Gemini rising, especially, he is the Lugna Lord, or the Lord of the Ascendant, giving him a preeminence and a superpower to be the boss of you. Alrighty. I think the clear story here is Mercury is going to retrograde in the month of May. And anytime Mercury retrogrades, Virgos and Geminis feel this. And sometimes they feel it in a good way. I think they can catch the wave of synchronicity and magic and enchantment that Mercury offers when he's that close to Earth, when he retrogrades. His retrogradation is because he's close to Earth and he seems to be slowing down and stopping from our vantage on Earth because of the different speeds at which we're traveling by each other. Do you know, it's like when you're in the parking lot and you're sitting still with a brake on, but someone moves their car next to you and you jolt and hit your brake because you think it's you moving. It's that weird optical illusion. But nonetheless, for you guys, you're going to feel the retrograde, of course, because it's your sign that is being impacted the most dramatically, Gemini. So now Mercury will retrograde. I'm going to check the degrees of the retrogradation, which I have to grab. And then we're going to talk about which degrees of Geminis will feel it the most. But just know that independent of the degrees that I'm about to mention, everyone feels it. Okay. Who's a Gemini for sure. There's no doubt about it. So let me just grab the actual retrogradation degrees, which I maybe should have done before I started the recording. All right, so he's going to begin the retrogradation on the 10th for Gemini, and he'll eventually come out of this retrogradation because he slips back into Taurus, just so you know, in the beginning of June. So like around June the 4th or so. So anybody who has any planets in Gemini, Sun or Moon, or you have your rising sign in the degrees close to 4 degrees. So let's go for the first 8 degrees of Gemini. This is particularly evidently important. You're going to feel it more strongly, but certainly all Geminis feel this retrograde motion. Now, when he's retrograding from the house of you are going to initiate some backward momentum in some area of your life. You're going to go back over some old ground that needs some coverage. You're going to kind of dig back. And because he retrogrades all the way back behind you into Taurus as well, it can involve things that have to do with your psychology, your soul, your spirituality, your addictions and self-undoings, and the ways you may sabotage yourself. So this can be a real spiritual and psychological time for you of investigating yourself and looking backwards at your own past actions that could have impeded your success in life. You can go back over old ground in a relationship because this is happening opposing your descendant. So some significant other, some marriage or business partner may come back to you, or you may go back to them, which is more likely, and redo or recapture some old ground to close this out properly or to complete something in some significant way. And I feel like, often these retrogrades are very enchanted if you're open to them being that way. I got itchy foot. Like go into a feeling of like synchronicity, enchantment, divine portents and omens and symbols to help show you the way. Now, if you are somebody who's a Gemini who makes revenue online, like I use PayPal and Stripe, I have figured out myself that my clients and me, we notice that transits to the 12th activate the PayPal and Stripe account. So you may go back over some old ground in those kinds of payment processors of the 12th house, because don't forget, Mercury will touch down to turn around in that part of your sky. Let me grab my chart, Gemini, to see exactly when he ingresses into your Taurus zone, because that will be very telling of when some of that 12th house action could be even more significant. Mercury goes backwards into Taurus on May 22nd. So May 22nd, as Mercury retrogrades into the Taurus part of your chart until he stations direct on around June the 4th, can be very acute window of time regarding the soul work theme, regarding the payment processors of PayPal and Stripe, etc. All righty, next, what else do I think you need or should know about the most, because of what Time Lords impact you the greatest? So I think the second thing I want to talk about is your Jupiter ingress into Aries, because he will move into your 11th house, which is the house of Jupiter's joy in Hellenistic astrology. He's strong there. He is a fairy godfather when he goes into the 11th house. He will enter there around the 10th of May, and he will be playing in your 10th house until October 28th. He doesn't get past the first 10 degrees or 8 degrees. So if you're rising sign, Sun or Moon Gemini is in the first, let's say 13 degrees of the sign, let's say 15 degrees of the sign of Gemini, you get more juice from this. And later, the last half of you Geminis get more juice from this in the first 5 months of 2023. But this is a time of your dreams and wishes expanding. And it begins this May, mid-May. Hopes, dreams, and wishes may be coming true. You're going to have that stellium of 3 planets, yay you, all piling up, Mars and Venus and Jupiter in your house of hopes, dreams, and wishes. This is a dynamic, and fortune favors the bold energy. So I would encourage you, Geminis, to fully dream into being what it is you wish to see happen in your life, and to also use that energy to understand that this is a karmic rewards house. It's 6 from the 6. It offers you the reward from the payoff of your karmic debts. And in a way, it can actually bring you into a place of superior outcomes in your finances and in your gains from your career. And sometimes it even shows up as people who go out of their way to help you, as friends and allies suddenly become patrons, and benefactors. So give you a leg up. So those people can be women, because of course Venus enters in there, and on May 2nd, Jupiter, teachers, leaders, and guides and higher ups can help you. And of course, Mars at the end of the month, a lot of action stimulating forward momentum from the 24th of May at the end of last week of May. It's like things that have been percolating there suddenly go into action mode, like boom, it can definitely bring some financial windfall, pennies from heaven. Jupiter is a god of bounty. The 11th house is a house of windfalls. So you can have some financial prosperity in the month of May, but don't forget, this is going to be ongoing much longer. I will have a Jupiter in Aries video to go into a lot more depth for you about it. But with 3 planets in your 11th house, activating a whole bunch of charm up there, it's a charm offense in the house of the fairy godfather, you're definitely getting some good luck and some good feelings going on. And finally, Venus loves to party. She's going to be there May 2nd, but watch out, because she's in her exile or detriment. You could overdo it. So watch out, Geminis, that you don't go too far, too hard, partying too much, having too much fun. There could be a consequence to overexerting your fun quotient. So be cautious about that. Especially be careful, because my feeling is that Jupiter expands everything it touches, and Venus is definitely prone to rowdy behavior in the Valhalla beer hall with the warriors. So you don't want to end up with a hangover of a century or something like that. So just a bit of funny thoughts there, but for some of you Geminis, it's a warning symbol. It's a warning, don't do it. Alrighty, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and rising sign people. I'm going to start off with a Scorpio eclipse. It's very prevalent and predominant and influential, but usually in a positive way, as eclipses can always bring something good, even if they bring change and dramatic change at that. The Scorpio eclipse is a water trine to the house of your identity, your first house. If your rising sign, sun or moon in Cancer happens to be in the degrees of 20 to 29 degrees, you're feeling this a lot more strongly than others. but other, degrees of Cancer, but the whole of the Cancer people get a big dose of a lunar eclipse in another water sign. Trine is a positive energy. It's trining from your 5th house of children and your 5th house of romance and your 5th house of independent business, enterprise, entrepreneurship, your 5th house of muse and creativity, your birth babies and businesses and books and projects in that house. Now, it's a fullness, it's a full moon. I'll be going into a lot more detail on the eclipse video just for that. But the sense of it here is what is coming to a fruition or a completeness with your children, with your lover, with your love life. For some Cancer risings, it can be a culminating energy of something that's been going on for a while, like your lover proposes you move in, like your child proposes he moves or she moves out of the house, or things like that. You could find that there's a fullness of this eclipse as a lunar eclipse, full moon, bringing a new insight or way of seeing or perceiving 5th house matters. I find lunar eclipse are insightful, and in the 2 weeks before and after, look for some new insight or revelation about those 5th house themes to show up. Now, you can make money in that 5th house through speculation, like buying a lottery ticket, going to the casino, or perhaps even investing in a speculative stock and seeing if it pays off. This is not a bad eclipse for a culmination of something you've already done in the themes of bought a lottery ticket, invested, etc. So something could pay off during and after this eclipse, and the eclipse is on May the 16th. So 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after, you'll be feeling this 25-degree Scorpio eclipse. Next, the eclipse itself, okay, is ruled by Mars, and Mars is the Lord of your 10th house. So it's very possible that some of this fullness in the 5th can give you fullness in your career or your reputation in the world. So it can amplify that part of your sky as well and bring fruitfulness, fruition, and fullness, but also completions and endings, especially because it's a South Node eclipse cycle. And there's a sense of something softening or letting go or dropping away a little bit, okay? The second thing I think we want to talk about for you Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign is the entrance of 3 planets in an angular house. That is your 10th house. Angular houses are 1, 4, 7, 10. They're like the water wheel, catching the water and spinning the wheel. These are pivot points, kendras, kentrons, pivots, stakes of the chart. They turn the wheel of your destiny. The 10th house is one of those. This 10th house, the house of your career, your action in the world, your reputation, your status, is gaining a huge favor, fortunes the bold, 3 planets ingressing into Aries. There's no doubt about it. For a Cancer rising especially, it is a new momentum in your career direction. Mars will give the full momentum at the end of the month, around the 24th, when he moves into that part of your sky where he'll be, for 6 weeks, generating a huge amount of yay you, fortune favors the bold. This is Sparta energy in your career house. And yet with Jupiter there on the 10th of the month, that's where some luck befalls you. Either lucky breaks in your career can start to unfold after the 10th of the month through, by the way, until October 28th. Or you could even find that a superior takes favor over you, like a boss or a higher up. Jupiter in the 10th gives you some kind of favorable dispensation. Venus will be there, of course, on May 2nd, as I mentioned earlier in the video. That means women could also favor you, maybe when Jupiter gets in there, right, which she will be getting in there to help Venus dispense blessings. There's 2 benefic planets moving forward in direct motion through your 10th house is a good thing. I mentioned for other people, Venus is in exile. She wants to be in the 4th house. She wants to be in Libra, where she's happy. For some of you Cancer rising, especially, the feeling can be a push-pull between the beauty and enjoyment and pleasure of being in your home and the need and the energy and the intensity of all of the action going on in that career zone of your chart and in the public part of your sky. It's a little bit of a bittersweet energy. It's momentum in new directions and a good action up there. But of course, Venus exiled from the 4th house just wants to stay home with a mug of tea or a good glass of wine, watch some Netflix, or knit a scarf. Okay. So you're in this kind of weird time, but it's mostly good. And women in power, Jupiter, Venus, especially when Jupiter gets there after the mid-month, the 10th can favor you in the workplace. Okay, so that's about all I have. If you want more details during the month for anything I've even said now, the deep dive, all signs stuff happens for everything, the eclipse, for all these planets ingressing into Aries. So stay tuned for a lot more of those videos. Please like, subscribe, if you hit the bell for notifications, so you won't miss any of my videos, and you'll get them as soon as they come out. Leo, sun, moon, and rising. Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign, fire, fire, fire. I mentioned this earlier. This is for all of us. We have 3 planets in fire, us Aries. Well, you get to experience the joy of that because as a fire sign, the movement of Venus on May the 2nd, Jupiter on May the 10th, and Mars on May the 24th into Aries will be in a flowing trine to you, to your big, bold, courageous, flamboyant, leaderful Leo heart. And so whether you're a Leo rising or a Leo sun or moon, you're all going to feel some of this yes energy flowing from the 9th house of God toward you. This can amp up the meaning of life, a sense of being on the right track in your dharma, in your right lane in life. This can amplify your buoyancy, your spirituality, your sense of connection to the divine. And this can also amplify things to do with higher education and travels to foreign lands, foreign shores. And any trips you take to a foreign land in the month of May will have great joyous blessings involved with them. Although I will say with Venus in your 9th house in Aries, her exile, watch out for debauchery and overdoing it somehow on a foreign land, foreign journey trip. Otherwise, for you Leo people, this is kind of a feeling of a support team from the house of God in the Hellenistic astrology, the 9th house, the house of deep meaning, to the house of your identity. And quite a few of you might find yourself really up leveling in a sense of true purpose, true north during the month of May. The 9th house is kind of like the hand of the king or the hand of the queen, the advisor to those in power. And you'll be surprised that Kamala Harris, or maybe you won't, have Saturn there. And she's like classically positioned in her natal chart, not to be in power, but to be the seat, the power behind the power, or like a vice president. And I'm not going to be political, I'm Canadian, but I just don't see her really having some kind of essential somethingness it would take to be the president of the United States, although she may become that. And what I will say is that for you Leo rising sign, especially, this could be an opportunity for you to step into a great position of power, because Jupiter will be in your 9th house, but putting you be close to power, like getting a level up, because now you're in a job or in a new position or in a new purpose where you're really close to somebody at the top level of some power structure, and you're working in the just behind the scenes part of the sky. All right. So it can be a career move that way. And because you have eclipses going through Taurus during this entire time in your 10th house, that supports what I'm saying. This 9th house activation can also expand your career house as well. Now, the second thing I think that's key for you Leos that you really want to really pay attention to in this eclipse cycle, in this month ahead, is the eclipse in Scorpio, because it's angular. So the eclipse on the 16th of May at 25 degrees of Scorpio is very important to you. If your rising sign, sun or moon is anywhere between 20 and 29 degrees, then the sign of Leo, this is very critical, and it can influence where you live. A completion, a fullness, a south node, an ending, a letting go, is culminating energy here in your bottom of your sky. We'll do an all signs video in more depth, but for some of you, it's an end of home, a change of home, a shift in your home. You could sell a home, lease a home, move to a new home. You could have some disappointment in your home even. So there is that too. The eclipse cycle is ruled by Mars, and Mars is the lord of that 9th house, which I told you about, where you're having all that incredible potency as all the planets gang up in your 9th house we just talked about. But he's also Mars, and he's the lord of your 4th house of real estate and home, but he's also the exaltation lord of your 6th house of work. And this can mean that for some of you, this eclipse of fullness in the 4th house can change the work situation for you, or your work situation changes in the relationship to your home situation. And I mean by work, I mean the office space, the coworker space, the kind of the workspace of the work. Okay. So keep that in mind. Stay tuned for more details in the month ahead. Check the click the bell for notifications, and subscribe if you're new to my channel, because then you'll know when I go into my 8 to 12 videos a month going into each of these events that happen for all of the signs. I'd love to see you joining me on my channel. So Virgo, just like the Gemini, you're going to be very influenced by Mercury's retrogradation. And so we want to talk about which house that happens for you in, reminding you that Mercury retrogrades roughly 3 times a year. And this retrogradation of Mercury this time is going to begin in the sign that is associated with all of the stories that belong to the sign of, sorry, I'm just going to, let me just fix something, guys. Hang on. Sorry, the wind just started blowing through my window and knocking everything off my shelf here. I just had to stop the video. Sorry, I'm back. Yeah, Gemini. So he's going to start retrograding in Gemini. He'll backpedal into Taurus, and then he'll go direct on the 4th of June. But he starts his retrogradation already on May the 10th, just about the day that Jupiter enters into Aries. So when he goes backwards at 4 degrees of Gemini, it impacts you because Gemini and you are both, Virgo and Gemini, connected to Mercury. He's the Lord of your sign. So it's a big deal when he goes retrograde. Pay attention to omens and portents and signs. Now he's retrograding to start out in your natal 10th house of career. So this is a key point, and 4 degrees of Gemini is a key hot spot in Gemini as he stations for retrogradation on May 10th. Now, if you certainly have any planets sitting up there or in your 10th house around Gemini, 4 degrees, but also if your rising sign is Virgo, in the first 10 degrees of Virgo, sun, moon, or rising, you're going to get a lot of juice from the beginning of this retrograde, especially. Now, Mercury retrograde can make you go back to a job that you've had before, but it will benefit you to do that. Going back into an older place of employment, an older job, or someone from an old workplace getting in touch with you, phone calls, emails, maybe trying to recruit you and seduce you back into the workspace that you used to work in. I'm certainly going to say that for some of you that can look as simple as that, because he will station direct out of your 9th house. It's also connects to Dharma, meaning and purpose when he goes direct in June, to higher education and foreign lands as well, a job offer from a foreign land, an educational opportunity that leads to a job, parse it up, mix it up, a meaningful job coming back from the past. There's job energy going on here, work opportunities going on here for all of you Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign people. Now, also, the other thing about retrogrades, which I always say, don't be afraid of them. Yes, maybe your computer will malfunction a bit or something, but Mercury's magical, enchanted, synchronistic, potence and omens and signs and symbols. Pay attention to your dreams. He's a dream god in the ancient world. Pay attention to the messages and the symbols around you. You're going to be getting a lot of signs about what you need to do for your career during this retrogradation and what direction you need to go in your career and also in your education if you're a student in higher education. So keep your eyes up for that one, Virgos. Or if you're thinking of moving or traveling to a foreign land, messages and news can come to you because of this whole cycle, the whole long cycle coming into the place of the sky in June. The direct motion in June from the 9th house. So there's an overlap here, right? It's the end of the month. I can't remember the date now, but the last week of May into the first week of June, there's a lot of 9th house activation, right? Then the house of higher education as well. What else? The second thing I want you guys to pay attention to, in my humble opinion, is a pileup of planets in your 8th house. That will be that Venus, May 2nd, Jupiter, May 10th, and Mars finally May 24th in your party, in your direct motion party in your 8th house. Now, hey, the 8th house is a very money house orientation. It often has to do with money that you don't work for because it comes to you because of a inheritance or bequeathment, or your partner gets rich, or your business partner monies, or your investment monies, or a tax rebate you didn't expect, or some bank loan leveraging money, all that kind of stuff, residual income, royalty income. So money is good here because Jupiter will be bringing you money bounty and money opportunity and money expansion while he's traveling in this part of your sky from May 10th to October 28th. But he only gets into the first 10 degrees or so, well, 8 degrees. So if your Virgo sun, moon, or rising is, let's say 5 to 11 degrees of Virgo, you really get a lot of power coming from Jupiter in this part of the sky. The later degrees of Virgo get more of the momentum in the first 5 months of 23. But it certainly is called the bequeathment transit. And a lot of Jupiter in the 8th house is an inheritance, I have to tell you. Now, not this month necessarily, though. With Venus in there first, in her sign of her exile, you may, a money goddess in a money house in the sign of her exile, be feeling strategically and financially challenged in some way, well, maybe even money conflicts arising with a partner, like a love partner, a romance partner, or a spouse or a mate or a business partner. And that can happen like there's no peace in that money house, you know, kind of vibe in the very beginning, like May 2nd through to May 10th. But then Jupiter comes in May 10th and tries to smooth it all over and bring peace and bounty and goodness to the whole scene. So then things can all work out. Affairs can be rectified, or justice will prevail, or all of that stuff. And then lastly, you know, we get the Mars piece in there. Big action steps are being taken on the 24th of May, add 6 weeks, right, until like first week of July around your money situation. And Mars will be like actions and choices and decisions on your finance front with your partner, with your business partner, with your investments, with, you know, again, for some of you, a bequeathment. Mars can often, just like a Jupiter transit, indicate some sort of action regarding a bequeathment possibility. In your case, Jupiter rules your 4th house, which is the house of the ancestors, the house of family and legacy money. So for sure, a lot of you will be experiencing perhaps some kind of money from the family of origin system, you know, mom and dad and all that stuff coming to you, grandma and grandpa, maybe even coming to you out of the family of origin story part of your sky. And there are eclipses happening as well in a part of your sky. Oh, sorry, am I getting ahead of myself? No, I'll save that for the Scorpio eclipse chart, okay? Pay attention to my next chart coming up, my next reading, or the mid-May reading for the eclipses. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the eclipse cycle stuff in the sky and how it may or may not influence some of the stuff I just said. Alrighty, anything else I want to say to you guys? Virgo, sun, moon, and rising, maybe went really quickly for you. I will say that hopefully some of you felt really leveled up in your primary love relationship because you had that Jupiter, Venus, Neptune conjunction April 30th. It's kind of like a grand ball of love going on there, like a big gala of love and joy and expansion and, you know, fairy godmothers of love, sprinkling love dust. So I think a lot of Virgos are feeling their primary partnerships are up leveling and deepening. And if you're a single Virgo, well, welcome to the love story, okay, of a lifetime. But that's kind of a bit behind you, but it trickled in on the, you know, the end of April. Okay. Libra, sun, moon, rising sign. And I'm going to talk, I need to get comfortable, about Venus. Venus is the Lord of your chart. She's your #1 planet. We need to pay attention to 2 things for you in this little mini reading. We're going to talk about the fact that she's the Lord of the eclipse that happens April 30th and May 1st. So it will trickle. In fact, you'll feel the effects into the first 2 weeks of May. We're going to talk about the fact she's moving into Aries when she's not so comfortable there. And I'll add anything else I see once I get going. So now when I look at that idea of the eclipses that are happening for you, you have to contextualize it. This is an eclipse cycle that really started in November with a partial lunar eclipse on the November 19th at 27 Taurus. So this eclipse energy has been playing out already. It will continue through to the summer, July of 2023. So you're in the middle of an eclipse season that's ruled by the Lord of your chart, Venus. And the Lord of your chart, Venus, is prioritizing in the Taurus part of the sky your financial goodness and wellness when it comes to your longer term treasures of money that you make and put in your 401k, money that you make from the sale and selling of real estate, money that you make from your business partner or marriage partner's connection to you, spousal money, alimony money can be included, shared resources, inheritances and bequeathment monies, all of that. 8th house money, royalty, residual, and passive income money. It's just everything but like the paycheck, really. It's money that also can be leveraged because you get a bank loan or a business loan and stuff like that, pay off a credit card debt, pay too much taxes and get a rebate. Okay, so all that good money stuff is happening for you in this eclipse cycle as a North Node cycle is expanding the energy and, you know, inflating the energy. A North Node eclipse cycle does that, but it's ruled by a benefic Venus, who's the Lord of your chart. So this is an attempt to really press into a greater financial goodness in your sky that is also very active in the first 2 weeks of May because of the eclipse at 10 degrees of Taurus on April 30th or May 1st, depending on where you live. If your rising sign Libra or your sun and moon Libra is anywhere therefore 5 to 15 degrees perhaps of the sign of Libra, this is very influential eclipse because you can feel the energy of it, even though it's in conjunct to your ascendant, you still can feel it, almost like in your peripheral vision, the money story is humming. The second story for you guys is the moon, and Uranus is there. So sudden bolts of financial uptick for you, sudden bolts of, you know, change in your money story can happen. Now, you have the movement as well of Venus, the Lord of your sky, a very important Time Lord planet for you, in her place of difficulty and exile from her true happy home, Libra. And that's because she's in your 7th house, where she goes on May 2nd and will be there for a while. How long does she stay there? I should have looked at that. She'll be there until May the 28th. So that journey is something that can feel awkward for you. You might find that a business partner, marriage partner, or close friend, or some of your clients, significant others you interact with, are being argumentative, conflictual, gnarly, aggressive, not nice, and certainly not fun either. Venus in Aries, right? She's having to act like a tough guy, and she doesn't like it necessarily. She prefer to be balancing the scales of diplomacy with you, but she's in a contentious spot. So female friends, especially female clients, female business partners, can be a little bit more the trouble spot for you during this month. I think it won't be as bad when Jupiter gets into your 7th house. And so that it's between May 2nd and the 10th that you should really watch out for conflicts with people in your life. And then Jupiter can help bring a peace deal to the table. Alrighty, which is very much same story of Ukraine, right? I'm anticipating between May 1st and May 10th, there will be peace at the table there. Now, the other energy I'd say is that you're going to have a pile up in your 7th house. And the good news is Mars will get there on the 24th, and Mars is in dignity in your 7th house. And this allows you to make effective, exciting changes in your life to do with how you engage in partnering with others, or approaching your audience and your clients, or a significant person who's Mars-like. Sometimes that's male, sometimes it's just somebody who's ambitious, driven, bold, and daring, can enter your sphere of influence into your life and make some important influential changes in your story. And Mars will be in that part of your sky for a while, 6 weeks, right? So, I mean, May 24th to July 5th. You had a lot of Mars action in your 7th house between about June of 2020 and December of 21, when Mars did a 6-month stint in your 7th house. So Libras, who were you conflicting, arguing with, battling with maybe, but in a way that was important? Or what Mars actions did you take to change up back then? Your significant other relationships, your client relationships, and how you interact with your business clients and audience and others, and stuff like that, because it might give you a bit of a flavor, but this is a very light version of a much longer transit that happened back then. Anything else I want to say, Libra? Nope, we're done for you, and we're moving on to the next sign, and I need some more water. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, obviously, we're going to talk about the May 16th eclipse in Scorpio, because obviously it's going to impact you quite significantly. So first of all, eclipses in the sign of you are ongoing. It's not just now. This is something you're going to be feeling from this eclipse on May 16th all the way through till the eclipses that are happening in 2023. They begin to wind down by the end of that year. So you're in an eclipse season. Now, this is in a cycle of eclipses, south node eclipses in Scorpio. So it's asking you to let go and surrender some aspect of identity and selfhood, especially for the rising Scorpio. The interesting part of that, there's a counterbalance for you guys, and that is that Mars heliacal rise in Scorpio back in November of 21 activated a rising in your identity, while at the same time the eclipses are opening up a surrender. So it's almost like you're expanding and surrendering at the same time. You're letting go and you're reaching higher. It's really an interesting combination, very rare. So keep that in mind. So what parts of your identity and what parts of your sense of self are kind of deflating a bit because of this eclipse? This eclipse is a culminating energy. It's a full moon, total full moon eclipse on the 16th. So there's a sense of it completing something that you started 6 months ago, perhaps, but also a sense that whatever is coming to an end or completion is also a fullness and a fruiting, like it's meant to finish because it's full, it's done. It's a graduation energy. It's just over, you know? So there's that part of the sky. A lunar eclipse can also bring you revelation about things. So you may see things about yourself in a new light. You may understand yourself in a new way. You may have new understandings about all kinds of things, even your health. You may change a health protocol or add something to your health protocols or something like that or you may end a bad health habit as well. Now, the other thing I want to say is that with this eclipse cycle in general, being very transformative and ongoing. There is an element that's active here for you, which is the fact that across the way, the eclipses are happening in their 7th house. And there's an expansion in your 7th house, right? Like energetically, you are opening up doors or windows, or there's a motorcycle, or revving your engine, Scorpio, towards significant business and love partnerships. So you're not just letting go for you of something, but you're expanding out there. You know, if you have business clients, audience, business partnerships, a marriage partnership, that's where you're finding the expansion and growth, or your partner's expanding and growing, and you're enjoying watching them as well. So keep the context of that polarity of self and other in mind. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Mars is the Lord of your sky, right? That's why it's so important when he did his heliacal rise in Scorpio. And that was like a kind of 2-year promise for you, Scorpios. Between November of 21 and November 23, you're going to rise in greater power and success in your life, in your career, in your relationships, and where you live. It's kind of an all points bulletin for you. But you know, Mars is going to be as Lord of your story in Aries pretty soon. And that's always really good for you. That always feels good for you. And Mars in Aries is going to happen May the 24th, and he'll be there for 6 weeks after. Now, by the time he gets there, he's joining Venus on May 2nd, and Jupiter, who gets into Aries on May the 10th. The context of Aries in your sky is work. It's the house of your work protocols, the office space, the workspace, the colleagues, your employers or employees, and blah, blah, blah. It's also health and health protocols. Mars is in his joy when he's in Aries. I mean, in your Aries house, in the 6th house, is a house of his joy. So he can end up making changes and new directions around the work and work habits, routines, and protocols, and health protocols. Sometimes when Mars is here, you can have surgery that you elect to have, and it turns out wonderful. You get that bum knee fixed. You know, you get something done you've always wanted to do for your betterment of your health, not usually cosmetic in the 6th. And then lastly, it's like, you could be feeling just really excited. Well, it can be cosmetic. I shouldn't say that, Scorpios, but it's often for very functional health easing routines and habits. But surgery for you in the month of May with the Mars, the Lord of your chart, in the house of his joy and sickness. So he'll try to bring health is a pretty good deal. Sometimes it means finding a new movement style that you like. You know, you've never been into exercise, but suddenly you discover Tai Chi and you can't get enough of it. That, you know, suddenly you become very athletic in a certain area that you never tried before. It's fire, so it's more combative, it's more aggressive, weightlifting, martial arts, stuff like that. Maybe running, you know, things that are fiery. So you might start one of those things up in those 6 weeks as well. So a lot of picking up speed in that part of your sky, May 24th and on. Check my all signs videos for all of this detail and more depth, especially in my one Mars. I'm going to be doing my Mars in Aries video that'll be coming out in May. So that's why you need to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, because then when I put these videos out that are really germane to you, you'll be ready to hear them, and I'll go into a lot more depth than I can do in this video. Okay, next sign. I thought I stopped recording. I'm still recording. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Now, you are fire, like Aries and like Leo. You're a fire sign, and you are going to benefit then by the fact that your 3 planets going to be in Aries, all going direct during the month of May. Venus will get into Aries on May 2nd, and Jupiter May 10th, and then Mars on May 24th. And this is your 5th house of romance. If you are a single Sagittarius, romance is on the menu for the month of May. If you are with somebody, the passion will heat up, especially May 24th and onwards, because that's when Mars, the god of passion, enters the house of romance. Now, if you have children, there's a lot of action here. If you want children, Jupiter is a sperminator, and he will fertilize you or your partner. So, you know, Jupiter will be in your 5th house of children and childbearing and shit like that. He'll be there for a long time. So he'll be there May the 10th to October 28th, and he'll be gone for a while, and he'll be back again December 20th of 2020 into May of 22 to 23, May of 23. So for a lot of you, Sag rising in particular, but also sun and moon, having children, getting pregnant, or your partner pregnant is a possibility. So there you go. Now, expanding everything 5th house, your own independent business enterprise, your entrepreneurship can expand during the month of May as Jupiter enters into this part of your sky on the 10th onward. In the very beginning of the month, Venus is there by herself before the whole gang shows up, right? And, you know, she's ill at ease in Aries. So you might have some difficult issues with a lover, some quarrels, lovers quarrels, some lack of harmony and diplomacy, some combative combats with the one you're with. But then Jupiter patches it up maybe from June the 10th onward and tries to make calm, harmony, justice, and peace and wisdom from the quarrels. And then when Mars gets there on the 24th, the passion starts to sizzle. Mars can also excise children away from you, like cut them out, and meaning that they move out of the house or something, you distance from them, or they move away, or they go on a trip, or you go on a trip and get away from them. That's all very possible on the 24th of May onward. In essence, though, there's a power pack of a trio of planets in Aries in your May of 2022 reading. And this is going to inspire you, make you way more creative, bring you play, fun, joy, and pleasure. Do be careful with Venus there. All right. She's there until the end of the month, the 28th, because she can be a bit of a debauchery type when she's in Aries. She will overdo it all. She'll go hard. She'll go hard like a beer hall warrior, like a soldier, like, you know, enjoying, what do you call it when they get off of soldiering, you know, a pass from, you know, getaway pass. So just be careful you don't overdo the pleasures of life. You know, too much wine, too much joy, too much intoxication, etc. But otherwise, it's a pretty exciting time. Finally, Jupiter can bring money luck here, you know, and that's on May 10th, and he'll be there for like, 10 months or something till October 28th. And this is a good time for taking a chance on a lottery ticket, a casino, a gaming thing. Don't listen to my advice to break the bank. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he brings speculative money luck when he's in the 5th house. Okay. So there's just that. The other thing I want to say for you, Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign, is that I think that you need to pay attention to the retrograding of Mercury in your 7th house. You know, that's a very angular action for you that can bring an old lover, an old boyfriend, girlfriend back from the past. You can bring an old business partner back, somebody from your past that you're really connected to, suddenly giving you a call, an email, a phone call. That retrogradation is significant. Mercury will be retrograding May the 10th in Gemini, starting at 4 degrees. So if your Sag rising sun or moon is in the first 8 degrees of Sag, you're going to get a lot of possibility of a significant reconnection with a former somebody else you used to know. And what would it be for? I don't know. It's Mercury, right? The trickster. He does go direct in June, like June 4th or so, from your 6th house of work and workplace, which is also a sign that you're going to find something popping in the work part of your sky to do with your job and employment as well in the month of June. But it's that retrogradation starting in the house of marriage that makes me wonder if an ex-wife, an ex-husband, an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, or somebody comes back to you out of the blue and gets in touch with you. And there could be a very important reason for that. Mercury doesn't do everything without meaning, right? It's a purposeful reconnection. It's dark and gloomy and it's about to rain here and I wanted to go for a walk. So I got to get hustling on my recording. All of a sudden in the middle of the day, it looks like a tornado is about to hit. Okay, Vancouver, Canada, weird weather. We had a thunder snowstorm the other day. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign, the energy of this month of May. I really want to focus on a few things. I think the most important thing that comes to me to talk to you about is the angular momentum of 3 planets entering in your 4th house. Now, this is an angular house. This is Aries, and this is where the action is. Venus coming in at the 2nd of May, then Jupiter coming in on the 10th of May, and then finally Mars joining the fray on the 24th of May. It's a pileup. All of that energy in your natal 4th house is going to influence your home life. It's going to make a change maybe where you live. The first thing is when Venus gets in there, it could be a redecorating move or desire to beautify the home. But Venus is in detriment. Things aren't going the way you want. You want more pleasure and joy, you more fun and more beauty in your home, but it's not quite working. Is there too much push and pull between your work and your home life? Is there something not calibrating there? Is there a gnarly female suddenly in the home life story? Someone living with you who's contentious or obnoxious or aggressive? And then Jupiter tries to patch it all up around the 10th of May, where he's harmonizing, bringing justice and peace to the story, trying to find solutions in that home story. Now, Jupiter will be in your 4th house, bountifying, bonifying, beautifying, expanding your home zone of your sky. If you're wanting to buy or move, this is, June. This is May 10th to October 28th. There's a lot of momentum around relocating, leasing in your home, buying or selling a home, that kind of thing. Now, at the end of May, with Mars on the 24th getting into this part of your sky, this is ending, cutting, severing, or conflict in the home. Now, even though Mars is in dignity, right, in his own sign of Aries, it doesn't mean he doesn't cause conflict. So watch for arguments in the home the last week of May, but also endings, cutting away, severing something to do in and with and from your home, breaking the lease, ending a lease coming to an end, getting ready to move on, packing your stuff like that. This is a house of the mother and the house of your family of origin. Things may be going on with mom, and Jupiter down here, it can be a legacy thing, inheritance from a female mom figure in your life, can be what's on the table. Mars and Jupiter here both can mean passing of a mom. I need to see your personal chart to make that true, but just to know, some of Capricorn rising, especially for the rising sign caps, this is very possible. If your rising sign is anywhere, no, I'll just leave it at that. All right. The second thing I want to say for you Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign people, I'm looking through the sky to see what, I don't know, jumps out at me as a nice little touch point for you. The Scorpio eclipse. All right, let's talk about that. Mars is the exaltation lord of your Capricorn identity. So Mars, when you have a special relationship, you give him VIP treatment, basically. You're like, oh my God, you're coming to visit me when he comes to your first house, and you guys have a synergy. And it's like a movie star or a famous boxer comes to visit you, and you're all like loving them up, but they love you right back, and it's super swell. So the vibe then is this: Mars is going to move. Mars is the lord of the eclipse of May 16th, which is, there's a mosquito in my house at this time of year, which is happening. The eclipse is happening on in your 11th house. So here's the story. There's a bunch of eclipses in your 11th house that are going to be happening during this eclipse cycle. This is the first major one. Total lunar eclipse, 25 to 6 degrees, 25 degrees of Scorpio. If your rising sign, sun, or moon is 25 degrees ish, 20 to 29 degrees of Capricorn, you certainly do feel this eclipse quite strongly. Totality is strength. I think it's a long eclipse too, but it's a total eclipse and it's lunar. So the moon is occulted and cannot be seen some places in the world. This is going to bring a completion and a fullness in the 11th house. It is a dream and hopes and wishes house. You may be retiring an old dream. South Node is letting go of an old hope and wish for your life, letting go of an old goal for your life. At the same time, in mid-May, this is an energy that is sort of, it's the same place where Mars was rising in November. So you're both expanding your hopes and dreams and letting go at the same time. So I think it's almost like as one old path goes away, another one rises up. This eclipse can lead to some kind of letting go around money that comes from your career, maybe stepping away from a lucrative financial situation or being willing to complete it. And maybe it's run its course. Maybe the money's not worth it. There's almost a sense of having to move on or walk away from or let go and leave behind. But you'll have a vision or an insight from a full moon that reveals to you why that should be so. And lastly, there's an energy of this eclipse that is always going to be kind of potentially, there's suddenness because Uranus is across the sky in Taurus, and there's always a Uranian influence from the opposite side of the sky. And so some of these things might surprise you. You can have a jolting pineal gland insight about your dreams and wishes and realizing they're all like ancient and old and they don't fit you anymore. Maybe they came from your family of origin, or maybe your monetary success is no longer the most important thing. The success you derive from your career no longer carries the weight it used to. Whether it's the reputation, the awards, the rewards, or the finances are leaking out and you're kind of letting it go. I think a lot of you Capricorns will be reinventing your material wealth building and career direction as a result of this current eclipse cycle, because you're looking for your joy. You're trying to expand your joy with the eclipses in the 5th house. Okay. And there's nothing like Capricornians to be dutiful, responsible, hardworking, carrying the burden of developing resources and wealth for you and your family. You guys do that really well. And all of a sudden, a lot of Capricorn rising, especially, but sun and moon too, will want to find more fun and play and joy in life. And the money and the resource building may take a little bit of a deflation for a while in the next year or two. All right, moving on. More water for me. And am I recording? Because I paused now and then to get water. God, I'm not. Yes, I am. So Aquarius, sun, moon, rising sign. Yes. Woo. We are. We are the power of the world. We are initiated for the world because of that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction 2020. We are the lead goose for humanity, leading humanity onto something new. So Aquarius is we rock right now, especially rising. Okay, so number one, this energy that is happening in the month of May, the most important thing probably is the eclipse, because it is angular, as this eclipse cycle is always going to square your identity because it's a Taurus and Scorpio axis. It's always heating you up. So let's talk about both the eclipse of April the 30th, May 1st, and the eclipse of May 16th. One solar and the next one is lunar. Because it's behind us, watch my all signs video. I will put the link in the description box below, but I really want to talk to you about the fact that both your home and your career are changing. And I think the first couple of weeks of May, on the heels of that eclipse on May the 30th, can definitely, April the 30th, May the 1st, can definitely open up a new opportunity for a home. And it might feel very generous. It may feel really exciting and very sudden because of Uranus. It might feel like bounteous and expansive. That's because Venus is a ruler of the eclipse, and she was with generous, magnanimous Jupiter within a degree on the day of the eclipse. Planetary war aside, it means as a longer perspective, because planetary wars happen when two planets are within a degree of each other in Vedic astrology. I feel good about it for us. And I feel like it's an opening, an opportunity for something to do with home, a new lease, a new house, a new property to live in, buy, sell, and money to actually afford to do that as well. Now, it can be because of places like cost you nothing. Someone's going off to Europe for a year and wants someone to live in their home for free, or it could be because suddenly you have a bounty and you can afford it. But whatever it is, it's always good for your real estate. And expect in the first 2 weeks of May to hear some good news about that. You may have already heard it by the time you're listening to this video, because it could have already heated up by now. And I'm recording on April 24th. And then second of all, you have this now, the 16th of May, 25 Scorpio eclipse. If your rising sign, sun or moon is anywhere between 20 and 29 degrees of the sign of Aquarius, you're going to feel it pretty strongly. So there you go. And this is definitely for all Aquariuses nonetheless. There is a totality of a lunar eclipse in your 10th house of career and reputation. You're getting ready to release something in your 10th house, even though Mars was rising there in November. So at the same time, this is a place of great expansion and new developments and changes of direction. In the 2 years that follow November's rising of Mars in Scorpio, November 21, there's also this South Node deflation, letting go, surrender, and release of some area of your career sky. Now, I'm going to give you an example. I'm a practicing consulting astrologer. I was shocked, like when I looked at, I have 4,000 clients in my database from only 4 years of client readings. I mean, I've been doing astrology for 30 years, but I've been doing it full time as the only thing I do, as my primary focus since 2019. And I really have to say, I love my clients, but the pace is not something I think I can sustain. Like my vocal cords are going to dry out. So I'm looking at letting that client practice go and maybe cutting back to like maybe seeing few clients. I usually book it a month now, but and doing something like teaching. I got a couple of courses I want to teach, doing something like this app I'm developing, doing something with this, other things I can do in astrology besides always just doing one-on-one. But the value for us Aquarians about what we're letting go of in our 10th house of our reputation and career is that we're letting it go because it's graduation time. It's fullness, it's completion. We're ready for something new, but we reached a mastery, a zenith, and a height in something. So it's exciting because, example wise, I can't do the next thing I want to do without having created the foundation of 4,000 client readings, right? That kind of thing. Now, the other element going on in the sky, besides this culminating shift of career and a lunar eclipse on May 16th, it can be revealing to us what we need to see in order to develop a new career path. And there will be an in-depth video about that eclipse, so you stay tuned for that, because I'm not even talking about Saturn in that eclipse yet. We'll be talking about that when we get to the eclipse video. But also in the sky for Aquarius people, of great importance and note, I would say, is the fact that you are going to have a pileup of planets in your third house. And the Lord of your identity is Saturn, and he's at home in the last 10 degrees or so of your natal first house. And so therefore, let's put it this way. You're experiencing some real direct contact from a planetary forward momentum in the third house, sextiling not only your first house of identity, but the Lord of your house, your Lugna Lord, the Lord of the Ascendant is at home in Aquarius. So Saturn is going to be influenced by this planetary story. Venus entering into your third house out of dignity in exile on May the 2nd, sextiling Saturn, the Lord of the Ascendant, and your identity. This is your sober-minded, serious, realistic, hardworking, responsible, disciplined essence of you. And all of a sudden, Venus is coming into contact. Now, she is enduring love, sober beauty, all that kind of vibe, but it's coming from the house of siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, and nieces and nephews, trips and travel. So there's definitely for you a possibility of some kind of enjoyable and adventurous journey somewhere that opens up for you sometime between May 2nd onward. Second of all, you're going to experience Jupiter stepping in to your third house of siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, trips and travel. Oh yeah, online stuff and learning too, websites and all that, learning and teaching on the 10th of May. This is ideal if you're a teacher like I am to teach a class anytime at all from May this year until October 28th this year. Okay, this is like super Jupiter juice in the house of teaching. So I'm going to be unrolling a whole bunch of cool things you'll see. But the other idea here is that this is something to do with females or sisters or siblings, expansion, growth, and trips and travel. These are possible themes that are really enriching up and juicing up, starting especially the 10th of May onward. And then finally, Mars activates this part of the sky. And all of these activations are looking back at Saturn. He's roughly around 24, 25 degrees of Aquarius right now. And, you know, this is an exciting time because all these planets will be positively flowing with opportunity, Venusian opportunity and yay energy, because sextiles are the nature of Venus. Sextiles are 60 degrees away. So when Mars gets in there, Mars is a definite traveler. He's a train, plane, and automobiles choo-choo guy in the house of travel. So he will make your life very adventurous. If you want to travel, short trips and distances, really, not really usually foreign lands. This is going to be quite exciting. So you're going to have Jupiter for expansion, Mars for trips and travel, Venus for pleasure and joy in the month of May in that house. So for sure, some of you Aries are going to take a very lovely getaway trip during the month of May. And lastly, you know, Mars here could cause arguments and conflicts with siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles and all of that, but he's trying to do it with Jupiter's help. Jupiter's at home there, and Jupiter tries to bring a benefic or happy outcome. Conflicts and disagreements can have productive, expansive goodness for you in your life in this particular iteration of Mars for 6 weeks in your third house. And lastly, you're directed, you're passionate, you're ambitious, and you're focused around things to do with learning, teaching, marketing and selling, and the online world. Those are highly juiced up parts of your sky during the month of May. Stay tuned for more during the month ahead. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications, subscribe, and like and comment all of that juice. Because if you do like my channel and hit the bell, every time I do an in-depth update for this stuff, which there will be a ton of them this month, there will be like 12 videos this month, you'll get more information. This is just the overview for the month and the highlights. All right, moving on, last but never least, of course, are the 12th sign, Pisces, sun, moon, rising sign people. All right, let's talk about the fact that you're a water sign, and that means that the eclipse cycle is trining you, and trines are good on the nature of luck and opportunity because of the nature of Jupiter. And this trine, which is 120 degrees of energy of an eclipse, total lunar eclipse at 25 degrees of Scorpio, is happening in your 9th house of God. Foreign lands, trips and travel, the meaning of life, the Dharma, your faith, your belief, culminating, completing, graduating in fullness in your 9th house. Now, if your rising sign is as a Pisces, between 20 to 29 degrees of Pisces, you definitely get a lot of power and a lot of juice, more so than all Pisces, from this particular eclipse. It may be culminating something that began 6 months ago. I'll be talking about more of that in the all signs version for the eclipse video itself. But I would say to you, because it's a flow and it's harmonious and it's really soft and everything else, this is good things coming from foreign lands and higher education, even though it's culminating and completing. And this is where Mars had his heliacal rise in November. So you are rising in regards to higher education, spiritual belief and philosophy, learning the meaning of your life, and foreign lands, if I didn't say that, book publishing as well. So these are all very auspicious zones of influence for you Pisceans. over the next 2 years until 2023 March. At the same time, though, there's an eclipse cycle, which is about completing, ending, letting go, South Node stuff. And the full moon of May 16th this month, it's very, very often a revelation, but pay attention to 2 weeks before and after. What new insights or ahas are you having? But I've seen eclipse revelations from South Node eclipses activate as late as up to 4 months after. So, but there's some kind of new way of seeing something or perceiving something that can have some positive influence and change in your life in the areas of ninth house themes. Now, the other thing I want to say is that you are experiencing, which one do I want to pick on? I'm just like looking at all let's talk about the pileup in Aries. Venus will enter into your second house of finances and money, followed by Jupiter, and then followed by Mars. Okay, so May 2nd, it's Venus, and she is, okay, a money goddess in a money house. Well, you can't complain, right? Although she is in debility or exile, she doesn't like to hustle here. I mean, she's forced to hustle, to make a sale, to turn a buck, all that. She wants to be in your 8th house, kind of living off business partner money, inheritance money, grants or stipends, but she's not there. She's in your 2nd. She's trying to make do. And women can help you financially as well, especially if they're kind of tomboy or Venusian aggressive energy, more go-getter female, but also then you end up with Jupiter joining in on May the 10th. Now, this is where things get lovely, because now all of a sudden Jupiter will try to bonify and expand the money house while Venus is there, the money goddess. And to more or less, it's good. It's like Jupiter is like, okay, opportunity, luck, lucky breaks, money, finances, resources. You could sell a possession. Like, I'm not kidding you. You could find out that, the antique rug that you thought was a piece of junk is worth millions of dollars. So finding some good news, some good luck, some good opportunity financially about a possession you own, or about resources, wages, earnings, and money flow. Chiron has been busy in your 2nd house for a while, trying to heal your money wounds. Yes, Pisces, heal your money wounds since 2019, February, and we'll be here till 2026. So this is a good Jupiter fray to help you and bless you around money wounds, and bring you teachers, guides, and mentors who can help you heal your money wounds if you have any. Money hangups, money wounds. And you're going to have this energy of Jupiter, even though he arrives, yes, on the 10th of May, he's going to be there till October 28th, right? And back again next year as well. So this is a longer arc of lucky money breaks and expansion and growth in your finances, Pisces. But you are definitely healing something, because Chiron is there as well. And looking for money and earnings to be aligned with true purpose is another meaning of that. And then lastly, Mars comes in on the 4th of May. He'll be there for 6 weeks. He's going to make you very excitedly taking action and direction and momentum and changes regarding the way money shows up in your life. He was there in May of 2020 through to January of 21. What were you changing up and how you earned money? Because that's another example of what he can do there. He can also pare away all that isn't needed in your possessions. You may sell objects and things that you own in order to generate money. He tends to pare away. Lastly, he will often get you to spend money in order to make money. Jupiter also can do that. Mars is the lord of the sign, so he's got executive command over Jupiter. So it's kind of like Mars can be very aggressively spending, but Jupiter is a benefic in the same place. So a lot of the spending is investing. It'll pay off in the long run. So don't get too concerned if you're spending a lot of money. It will all come back to you in the long haul. If you find you're spending you have a hole in your pocket and you're wondering where the money's going, I'm going to urge Pisces to breathe. This is just but a temporary thing. By July 5th or so, or the first week of July, Mars leaves that part of your sky and things cool down a little, but Jupiter's still there to keep expanding and growing your financial resources. Okay, did I miss anything for you guys? I don't think so. It's all we're going to do for now. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Check out all my stuff in the description box that I have going on, my sales and everything else. And I hope to see you guys again soon. Thank you for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. That's why I read all my comments. I like them and I respond when I have something relevant to say. To everything but people asking me for a chart reading in the comments. No, then just book an appointment with me. All right, guys. Ciao, ciao.